Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. So I wanted to take you guys along with a little digital sketching session. So I'm showing you guys some of my 17 sketch pages right here, which is kind of similar to what we're going to be doing today, but I'm going to keep it a little bit more simple and a little bit more sketchier than usual. Usually when I'm doing ones for 17, I usually try to bring it up to a certain level of finish, making them look a little bit more polished and just like each individual little sketch, I'm having air quotations right here, are a little bit more finished, I guess, if that makes sense. Yeah, so I've been feeling a little bit of FOMO as it is Friday as I'm recording the audio and not the visuals, and it's because I don't know if I talked about this, but I am a big Pokemon fan. I don't talk about it too much, but I grew up playing the Pokemon games. Ruby and Sapphire was my first introduction to Pokemon. I played Sapphire, my brother had Ruby, I played Fire Red, he played Leaf Green, and then so forth. The rest of the generations, whenever they were released, me and my brother would pretty much always buy them. And Pokemon Scarlet and Violet is no different, except for the fact that we did not receive the games quite yet. I did pre-order them, but apparently they just shipped just now. So it says it's arriving on Tuesday. So the next few days, like 3 days, I'm probably just gonna be drawing a lot of Pokemon related things. I think this might be the only Pokemon related video I'm gonna do in terms of focusing like more on Scarlet and Violet, or just like me trying to get out that energy. I'm probably just gonna sketch the rest of my sketchbook and get that FOMO feeling out of the way. So basically, I'm gonna be drawing my OC Masaki with a bunch of different Pokemon, and the first sketching session part, I don't know how to explain this, I decided to use the page assist in Procreate, which basically makes your page or your layers turn into different pages for your canvas. One way to combat this, if you would like to add color or use multiple layers for one page, in air quotations, would be to use folders. So I'm gonna have 2 folders set out so that we have 2 different sketching canvas pages, I guess, if that makes sense. I think it's pages. So yeah, the first page I'm gonna be doing is gonna be focusing a little bit more on 3 Pokemon, I think, from Scarlet and Violet, and then the next page will be just whatever Pokemon I already associate Masaki with. So yeah, the first one I wanted to draw is Sprigatito. I usually like drawing Masaki with the starter Pokemon, and I feel like Sprigatito kind of reminds me a little bit of Hansuke. I have half the mind of either making the character, like your starting character person, your avatar, I guess, either myself or Masaki, because I saw like the customization, you can add a beauty mark as well, and I think it would have been funny if I could make Masaki and then make him choose Sprigatito and name Sprigatito Hansuke. Yeah, that's just like a thought in the back of my brain. I might still do that, but maybe I'll just not make Masaki and I'll just keep Sprigatito as Hansuke. That, or I wanted to name the Pokemon as Genshin characters would be fun. But yeah, so let me think. Kind of lost a bit of my thought process. Yeah, okay, for sketching for these ones, I pretty much just sketch everything all at once on the canvas as much as I can, and I kind of shift in a way where I start in one corner usually and kind of just like branch out. Not exactly, oh, I guess sometimes like clockwise. So starting from, let's say 12 o'clock, moving all the way down until, let's say 3 o'clock, so that we kind of hit that upper to the bottom right hand corner. Other times, also, I do apologize. So because I was recording sound alongside while I was drawing, and usually I do this if I'm recording like ASMR videos, so I think more recently I've been changing the format to whenever I do draw with me's or sketch with me's, it's no longer real-time audio, except for the drawing audio, and I usually do the voiceovers after. I might switch back eventually, but I feel like whenever I do talking in real time for the videos, it makes the drawing session much longer and it's harder for me to focus. But for this time, because I was recording the audio for this session, there's a lot of times I feel like I'm heavily breathing or my nose gets a little bit whistly when I'm breathing because I was super congested for the last 2 days. Probably because it's been getting colder outside, which means the heat in our house kicks up a lot. And I said this before, my room gets like the brunt of whatever that temperature change is. So in the summer, my room gets the most air conditioning, and then in the winter my room gets the most heat, so oftentimes I have my vent shut because of that. Okay, so for the rest of the doodles, I don't know if we skipped over it, so I'm trying to think, how did I do this? I actually think I drew this one last. So I went from drawing above my main doodle and then going on the right side and then filling the last gap with the remaining sketch. And that's how I kind of pick and choose. Sometimes when I do like 17 doodling and I have references, I low-key keep a kind of like a mental check of the poses in my brain. So it's like if a person is facing the right side and they want to keep their arms intact, I have to make sure I leave enough space, and that's how I kind of like interlock different doodles together. But because I didn't really have a strong idea of how I wanted to pose Masaki, I kind of just doodled willy-nilly and try to fit things as I see kind of worked. So I believe I drew Sprigatito twice with Masaki, one a like more chibi derped version and then one larger one. The one on the bottom right hand corner was, I think, a Smoliv, which I just thought would be really cute. It kind of looks a little scared, a little whiny, and I thought Masaki would be able to take care of it, but he looks a little thrown off, I guess, if that makes sense. The last one I wanted to add in is a Pokemon called, now I have his name up here because I won't remember, Bramblin. So I added Bramblin in because I kind of see Masaki, I guess Koji too. I feel like both of them would be considered like scaredy cats. I feel like Masaki more so that he's like easily startled, a little bit more faint-hearted, if that makes sense. I think he's similar to me in that sense, but I feel like I can handle horror a little bit. I feel like Masaki would not be able to, but I wanted to draw him with a more like scared expression along with Bramblin because apparently it, at least I think it's the origin of the Pokemon, it's like the soul of something. I don't know if it was like specific, but I think it got stuck in like dead plants or something and then thus became a Pokemon. So I think like Masaki stumbling upon this tumbleweed-ish looking Pokemon and finding it in his area and then just picking it up and someone informing him that it's like a scary thing, like it used to be a soul, kind of freaking Masaki out. Because I believe it is a ghost grass type, so you know, if I give Masaki a bunch of grass types, it'd be funny to give one that kind of is a little bit more unnerving for him. So we're already on the second page in terms of the doodling. So this one I mentioned before that I wanted to use or draw Pokemon that I already associated Masaki with. Now, I'm trying to remember. What was the other Pokemon that I drew Masaki with in terms of when I drew all my OCs? I remember drawing Masaki, Sato, Koji, and Akemi with Pokemon. For some reason I'm blanking on what I drew Masaki with, but I have a doodle in my previous sketchbook where I drew Masaki with, I think like there's a Vileplume, let's see, Vileplume, Floette, I think a Turtwig, I think there's a Beedrill, I think there's a Lotad. There's like a few of them. I know I like drawing him with Lotad and like Buddew a lot. Buddew, I just think it looks cute aesthetically, like him taking care of something that's very like babyish, if that makes sense. Lotad I thought would be cute because help water plants and help just do like general maintenance and stuff, and it's a really cute Pokemon. I always love Lotad. And I've used like Ludicolo on my team, I think back in Sapphire, I believe. So I thought it'd be cute to draw Lotad with Masaki, so I needed him to be crouching, otherwise Lotad wouldn't make sense to be in the frame. I didn't draw Masaki like fully, so his feet aren't showing in the doodle, so it didn't really make sense anyways, so I kind of made Lotad kind of look like he's jumping with the water, kind of making Masaki just a bit worried. And then we're moving on to the next one. So I didn't really have an idea, like I said, with the poses, but I didn't want every pose to be front facing. and I thought it'd be okay to draw more of a back view of Masaki, but I still like drawing the face. I didn't want it to be just like full head of hair, so I kind of made it that it's like 3/4 but from behind, so you get to see kind of more like the back side of his chin area, a little bit of the ear and that cheekbone. So that's how I have Masaki, and I wanted him to be gesturing up to look like Floette. I think it's Floette, right? Actually, what type is Floette? Let me search this up. Spelled that wrong. It's E-T-T-E. Okay. Floette is a fairy type Pokemon. Okay, so the reason why I wanted Floette, I believe what I read about the Pokemon is that it's usually around like flourishing like fields of flowers or something like that. I think it'll be a very helpful Pokemon for Masaki. Also aesthetically fits his aesthetic. So yeah, decided to throw Floette into there. I believe that was also a Pokemon I've drawn Masaki with prior as well because of probably that description. Then I decided to shift that doodle and kind of almost merge it with the one I did previously so that I could make the space for it a little bit tighter, and then throw in a larger doodle next to it without it having to be cut off weirdly, because I could have put this bigger doodle on the left side into that upper left hand corner, but then I would have lost a lot of the kind of like his torso, which I thought would be weird because it would literally just be like a big version of his face, which I feel like the first page already had that, so it's like I didn't want two of them. So here's a different one, and I wanted to include Whimsicott and Eldegoss because Eldegoss I just think is really cute looking in my opinion, and then Whimsicott is also a Pokemon that I really enjoy personally, so But I think for Whimsicott, I need to read up. No, I did read up on Eldegoss as well. I think them together would be very beneficial for nature. So I think Whimsicott does create like gusts of wind, often scattering its own like little fluffy particle things around itself. But also Eldegoss has like seeds and stuff that also just flies and floats around. I think it said it's beneficial for other Pokemon for nutrients as well as to wildlife. So I think them as a combination would be very cute. Not only that, Whimsicott, I don't know why. I think there's like I don't know if it's a real photo or a meme photo. It's like a picture of him hanging up its fluffy coat thing. It basically looks like a gingerbread man without all the fluff. So yeah, Whimsicott's very easy to draw in my opinion. And Eldegoss, yeah, I just like Eldegoss a lot. I think it just looks really fluffy and cute. He looks so small with just a big fluffy dome, so I think it looks cute. So I just have Masaki kind of look like he's kind of like cradling them a little bit. So because I didn't plan out the arms prior, it doesn't really look like he's technically cradling them. Like it doesn't look like there's that weight there, so maybe they just, I don't know, a lot of things just don't make sense. For the upper left hand for this part of the canvas, I'm just gonna put another chibi here just really quickly, so just Masaki playing around, and I feel like it'll be with Whimsicott. I think it's also because I didn't want to search up another Pokemon and I can really easily shorthand Whimsicott in a strange way. So yeah, that is the last doodle for the sketch pages, and then we'll be on to the coloring phase. I think other than that, there's not too much to talk about in terms of the sketching portion. So do let me know what you guys are picking for your starter, also which game version you got, or potential Pokemon for your team, because there's definitely a lot of Pokemon where I'm hoping is in the Pokemon lineup or the Pokedex. I'm not too sure. I haven't checked like a full list quite yet. I also don't know if I'm repeating myself because the audio keeps dying. But yeah, let's talk about background color and just general stuff first, before we start getting back into just general rambling. So for the background, I switched to a light pastel blue just because I thought it fit Masaki the best, and with the rest of the Pokemon, there's not too much color overlap. And then I added a white grid to the back. With the grid brush that Procreate has. I just find it fun, and it kind of is a little bit more reminiscent of like doodling and sketching on like lined paper or graph paper, you know, like whenever you're in school and you need like just any kind of paper surface to doodle on. So yeah, I thought it'd be kind of fun. I know it'd be also cute if I did it the opposite, so more of a white page with blue lines would be definitely more reminiscent of that kind of paper type. But I don't like the canvas being entirely white. I just think it burns my eyes and it's a little bit too jarring, so I like leaving it usually in a color, and then white lines is a little bit less distracting. So for prepping for color, I know I already skipped over this part. I didn't realize I didn't include this into the footage, but I set these sketches, like both sketches, to multiply, and then I changed the hue a little bit to more of a lighter brownish red color, just because I like it when it's a little bit warmer. Whenever I'm like painting in the skin portion or anything like that, I like the face being quite warm. So and in terms of my layers, like I said, if you're using Page Assist, I know on the bottom right now it looks like I only have one page. It's because I accidentally hid the second one, instead of just like flipping back and forth, because I forgot that's how this one works. So if you want to use color alongside with your sketches, just make sure that you're using folders so you keep your pages separate, rather than every time you make a new layer your canvas turns white. Yeah. So for coloring, it's just pretty much the usual stuff. So I highly recommend that if you want a little bit more, it's not gonna be entirely more in depth, but at least a little bit more time spent on coloring and rendering. Any of my other digital videos where I'm not focusing on sketching probably be a little bit more help, or any of my start to finish videos, which I do want to record another one because it's been like 2 months, I think, where basically start to finish is videos where I don't cut anything except for minimal sounds, and I show the entire process from start to finish of an illustration of my choice that I decided to record. It almost feels like an ASMR video too, because it's with usually real sound, maybe sometimes music. I don't remember how I edit those videos since it's been a while, but yeah, if you want a little bit more of an in-depth one, those probably be the better videos, because I think for this one I skip around so much because it's like I'm coloring like 4 to 5 different illustrations at once, so it made me a little bit tired, which is why I didn't bring this up to like a super clean, more refined version, which sometimes I do for my 17 doodles, if you've seen any of those. Yeah, that's pretty much it. In terms of Pokemon that I hope that are in the game, hoping Litwick's in there. I don't know, I always loved the Litwick line, so like Litwick, Chandelure, and Lampent, or I guess Litwick, Lampent, Chandelure, and then who else is there? Solosis, and like Duogen, and Mew Nicholas, or another favorite Pokemon that I have. There's like a bunch of other ones I do like, but for some reason every time I think about Pokemon that I personally really like, it's that, like those two lines, if that makes sense. They're also the Pokemon that, like, back in Sword and Shield, I would actually shiny hunt, and I shiny hunted for a shiny Litwick, made it into Chandelure, and I think I was halfway, not even halfway, I was like well into shiny, not hunting, I guess it's breeding Pokemon for shiny Solosis, and I think I gave up. But yeah, I don't know. So yeah, I don't know. If you guys have any Pokemon that you associate me with, do let me know. I don't know what kind of vibe I give off to people, because I think I've said something similar where I asked people what Genshin element or weapon type you guys think I would wield or have. And I think for weapon type, people said Catalyst, I think for the most part. Some people said bow and I think sword. I don't think I got polearm or claymore. And then for elements, I think I got each element at least once, but I think the majority of them were Dendro, but I highly believe that's because you guys associate with me with plants. And then I got Hydro, Anemo, and Cryo as well, which I don't think there's too much of a reasoning. It might be because the color scheme of my VTuber model, maybe the case, I'm not too sure. But maybe in a future video I'll draw myself either as a Genshin character, not Genshin character, as if I'm in the Genshin world or in the Pokemon world. So I want to rack my brain around what kind of trainer I would be. if anything, because I feel like Genshin might be a little bit easier because I'm probably gonna stick myself into Liyue just because I am Chinese. And then Element might be a little bit harder for me to narrow down, even though I know a lot of you guys want me to be a Dendro user. Okay, for the sketch page, because I have the majority of the colors laid out, and then I did a little bit of erasing of the sketch as well as change the color of the sketch to match a little bit closer to each area. I wanted to prep the second page for colors. Now, because in the past, whenever I used Page Assist and I showed you guys like the time lapse and stuff, the time lapse makes the switching so jarring because I didn't know that it would show the switching. So I decided that I would just record all the colors onto a little swatch, bring that layer with me to the second folder so that I can easily color the Masaki's and the Pokemon. Well, it's basically Masaki's colors. So Masaki's colors on the second page. I forgot to talk about this too. So when I format sketch pages usually like this, I also refer to them as sketch pages. I don't know if people usually refer to them as, or if people refer sketch pages as to something else. This is what I've always been calling them ever since I did 17 doodling in a compiled page or canvas. So yeah, I also call them doodle pages every so often. I know some people question me when I say sketch pages because sometimes when I bring them up to a certain level of finish, people are like, oh, it's not a sketch kind of thing. And I totally understand that, but for me it's like there's definitely a lot of areas that I leave untouched or I don't fully bring up to a certain finish, so I still deem it as more like a sketch. Because I don't want to call it like an unfinished page. That makes sense. It just doesn't really make sense naming it that way. But yeah, so same thing for this part. I made sure that the lines were a little bit lighter, more on the reddish brown side, and then we're also set to multiply so that the colors underneath kind of help change the sketch color a little bit. And I feel like I lost my train of thought. Was what I was talking about prior. Yeah, I think I was talking about like future video where I might draw myself as like a Genshin character or as a Pokemon trainer. I would need to think a little bit more because I would like to do like a larger illustration if I do draw myself as a Pokemon trainer, and actually maybe think of a full fleshed out team, like a team of 6. I don't know if it'd be like my final team of 6 kind of thing because I feel like I just want to pick 6 Pokemon that I like, so it's not gonna be like a cohesive team if you're into like more competitive Pokemon stuff, and then you're gonna be like, oh, maybe you have too many grass types, you're gonna be vulnerable to, you know, like what is there, fire, flying, bug, whatever, right? Because I feel like I play Pokemon casually, but I know enough, if that makes sense. But I think it's also because my brother's such a Pokemon nerd. He can speak so many facts and stuff, and it always surprises me. And he knows like certain Pokemon are certain numbers and stuff, and it's just like, why? your brain space and brain capacity for that information. But yeah, I kept shading and everything to a minimum because, like I said, because I'm keeping these as a sketch, I'm not gonna be sprucing them up too much. And oftentimes when I'm doing like 17 ones, I have reference. So I like to either match similar aesthetic or the similar atmosphere to my reference pictures of whenever I'm combining different versions together and stuff. Sometimes like I think it's mostly in my Wonu one where if I see him in an outfit, then I'll just draw a bunch of different Wanus and different poses and stuff with that outfit. So it's like you're kind of following a reference and you're kind of not, kind of thing. But I feel like those ones I also bring up to a certain finish. But once I was done with the second page, I merged the layers. So I merged my sketch layer with my color layer in respective folders, and then we can start to spruce things up. So, that's what I was talking about. Usually when I set up like the layout, just like mentally in my brain, my main focus is usually on the biggest doodle, which tends to be the one I start off with first. Which is how I did the first page and not the second page. The second page I did it as the third one, which you could tell that I was a little bit confused on where I could place him because I ended up pushing the two different sketches together and then leaving a whole gap right onto the right side of the canvas so I could stick a larger doodle of Masaki on that side. But usually for the bigger one, I spend the most time trying to flesh it out and try to make it look a little bit more finished, because usually your eyes will gravitate towards that one first, and then the rest of them is kind of like fair game, like whether or not I spend a lot of time on them. Usually the smaller they are, the less work I put into them because you don't see them too often. But I still like usually adding some kind of like doodling element to it as well. I like adding like a white border. Sometimes I'll add like little scribbles of text or arrows or just things around it. I didn't do it too much for Masaki. I did add like hearts and stars into the background, and there's like little what feels like emoticon expressions or stuff, like little ta-da sparkle thing that looks like, you know, like you're beaming, I guess. It's just fun. But also I think in the future, if I can, and I draw Masaki again with either Pokemon or just like in general, I would like to draw him with various expressions. I definitely think that's something I struggle with a little bit, is exaggerating negative emotion, if that makes sense. I think I can do crying ones and I can do happy ones, but I think like anything that looks like you're alarmed or scared or angry, I don't do a lot. And I think it's maybe because I don't associate Masaki with those expressions either, that I don't draw it too often. But yeah, that's something I would like to work on. So maybe in my sketchbook today or the next few days, I'm gonna try my best to finish off my sketchbook and have hopefully next Monday, so like probably the Monday before November ends, maybe a sketchbook tour. We'll see. I might skip the last page as a video because I really want to be done with the sketchbook. I really do. I need a new start, and I need to refresh my brain. I treated the sketchbook very differently than I did previously, which is kind of throwing me off a bit. But I think it's also because I've been focusing a little bit too much on only doing digital stuff. But now that I have a little bit more free time without having the pressure of too many deadlines, I want to sketch on my sketchbook a little bit more freely. Actually, this is something I wanted to talk about. So I think throughout the years that I've been drawing and just like doing art in general, I was the most productive during my university days, which for me is insane because my studio hours and my classes, alongside with keeping up with like 17 doodles and drawings and stuff, I posted drawings almost every other day or every day, and then I had obviously the other stuff. Maybe I'll talk about this in the sketchbook doodles video, because I kind of want to go over what I was trying to do in the last few days, and I think it kind of works out. So I'll explain that in a different video since I am running out of time, and it might be a little bit of a tip if you had some point in your life where you're like the most productive when sketching or something like that. We'll see. But yeah, just adding a little bit of sparkles and hearts and stars to make the page look a little bit more doodly and sketchy. But yeah, here are the last ones. I don't think I showed the time lapse this time because the flipping is a little bit insane. But hopefully you guys enjoyed today's video, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye!